Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wild Dispatch. I'm Robin and I'm back with more skills and stories from the wild. As promised, it's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of pushing and promoting of this competition, but the announcements and the draw has finally happened. There was a live post on Instagram. If you want to see it there, then you can head over there. But I'm also going to add it to this podcast episode now. So hang on for just a second, and the three winners of the podcast will be announced. Before we actually do that, I'm going to say them out loud now, just so people know. I know that you can't hold your excitement, everyone. So we have... in first place, we have Katie Keller from San Jose, California. In second place, we have Frank Andriotti from San Jose, California, strangely. And then third place, Jonathan Notch. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that quite right, from Bloomington, Minnesota. So, three winners. Congratulations, everyone. I'll get in touch directly with your prizes and we can figure out getting them over to you. After the broadcast, which I'm going to play in just a second now, I have three amazing stories from past episodes of the podcast, the past 100 episodes, with a bit of an Alone reference, and then also a newer one from South Africa as well. So hang on after the announcement, and there'll be some great stories for you to listen to. For those die-hard fans that have listened to every episode, you probably would have heard this one before.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch!
Okay, folks, we are live. It is the 6th of July, and as promised, we are doing the announcement for the three winners of the episode 100 competition / giveaway / sweepstakes / I think that's probably all of the names that we've got for it right now. We are going to do that any second now, but first of all, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who entered. It's been amazing seeing everyone jumping in for the opportunity to get some free stuff. I also want to say thank you to all the sponsors: Lancaster Archery, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Eastern, Ethics Archery, Onyx Hunt, Tarp Tent, VAP Broadheads, Magnus Broadheads, Western Obsession, The Mission Fly Fishing Magazine, Mavangana Fly Fishing, Strand Coffee, and Wilderness Athlete. So, all of those guys put in for the pot. We are going to do a drawing in a second. I had a little play before, so I think I've just about figured out how it all works with this random draw technology. And I would say I'm going to repost this broadcast in a second on my podcast feed. We're going to have some good little extra episode nuggets on there. Last episode 100, was with Wonia, and thought it would be fun to go back to a couple of the first Alone guests that I ever had on the podcast. Admittedly, Joel van der Loon, who's one of the guys who jumped on, he actually did that before even he'd even heard of the podcast or before anything even went live. So thanks to Joel for that. Kielyn Marrone also jumped on very early. I see some people have joined in, Doug and Matt. Hello, welcome. Apart from a couple of stories from Joel and Kielyn that are going into this episode that's going to come out any second now, we also have a mind-blowing life or death story from Aubrey Tidbury, who went live. Hi, Doug. I see you typing there in the comments. Aubrey Tidbury has got a fantastic story about wrestling with a bushbuck in a life or death situation. So that one's going to be there. There's going to be a nugget in the episode that's coming out with this draw on it too. The only other thing I wanted to say is I just had an amazing conversation with James Eastman, who's a local Mendocino surfer who survived a great white attack about 3.5 months ago. So it was fantastic talking to him. He's obviously got a crazy story, so that's going to be coming out too. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so I guess it's time to do the draw. So I think in order to show this, it's important to make it all look legit. I've got the technology here. Viral Sweep was the competition. Yeah, Uncle Aubrey is a legend. You're right, Matt. Um, yeah, I've got the drawer here. I'm going to grab this camera a second and I'm going to flip this around. So let me have a look here. I think we're going to go live draw. Here we go. Let's see if this works. I did a little test just now. Does that look like it's looking good? I need to see. Can you guys see that? Okay. So I want to change that to 3 winners. We're going to have a first, second, and third prize. So let's go. Yeah, draw winners. Oh, we're going to have a dramatic countdown, people. Oh, I'm sure you cannot wait for this. I feel like they could do with some music right now, something dramatic, which we don't have the licensing for. Use your imaginations. Okay, here we go. Katie Heller comes in first from San Jose. Frank Andriotti, second, San Jose. And Jonathan, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Nosht from Bloomington. And I guess that's Minnesota. So there we go. Congrats, everyone. I'll get in touch. Hopefully, if you will get back to me, then that's going to be the winners. Otherwise, I'll do another draw for people who didn't get back to me. But there we go. So, again, thank you everyone who entered. And thanks for helping me celebrate this episode 100 moment. Thanks, Matt. Yep, well done, chaps. I have 2 little questions about your experience in Alone that I would love to ask about. Well, one thing that I thought was brilliant is the stick that you carved. And I think it's just called, you called it a story stick, right? I want to make sure I got the name wrong, because in my head I called it a memory stick, but it's like an old school memory stick.
I guess you could call it either or.
I keep getting it wrong in my own head. So, but you carved stories into that. Do you have it? So is that a great, I'm so curious to see.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Amazing.
So a memory stick might have been actually a better word for it, because that was the goal. I did want to remember very specific experiences out there so that I could look back on the stick and remember those specific experiences. And now I can,
Yes.
so. And then, of course, I've even got some of the rabbit pelt from one of the rabbits I killed, and then raven feather, because they were always around.
Yes. So you would, each day, every day, anytime something significant happened, you would carve a little picture or words into that stick so that you would remember it. Because in Alone, you're not allowed to actually record anything, are you? You're not allowed to write anything down, and then you're just capturing footage, and then you're not allowed to have access to that footage afterwards, if that's right.
Correct. Yeah, so you're never able to get that footage. You're not allowed to have any pens, paper to write things down, no reading books, nothing. So this was a way of journaling. There's a mixture of symbols and there's a mixture of words, just to remind me of, and I can look at these things and it can bring me right back in the moment of what I was thinking and at the time. So
any moments on there that you see right now that remind you of a cool moment that happened if you were to look at that stick?
Yeah, let's take a look. Well, there was, I guess, so there's this one here.
Yeah.
This one right here, you can see the skull. That's the horns there, the skeleton. So I guess it would be day 2, because I got dropped off fairly late in the afternoon on day 1, and I just set up a very impromptu camp for the night. The next day I went to explore the area, and I found the muskox skeleton and the skull, and that's where I actually built my camp. I built my camp there because I kind of found that this would be a corridor where big game would travel through, which funny
Yes.
enough, I was right on the money there because big old moose came in, that which none of that footage was shown. But so the that memory was so vivid because I'm exploring the area. I've only been hiking for about an hour, and I'm like looking at this area, and I walk up and I hear this, and I'm like, what is that? So I'm like, your bow's ready. I'm stalking in, and I see this animal behind. I look, oh, it's a carcass, and this animal puts its head up behind a carcass and just stares at me. And the first thing I think is like, is that a what is that? I thought it was like a weasel, or it
Yeah.
could have been, and it was and then as it turned and it ran away, I was like, oh no, that's a much bigger animal. That's a wolverine.
Oh, cool.
So first day I got to see this wolverine was chewing on
Yeah.
the rib bones of this muskox.
Amazing.
And so I went up and I checked out the carcass, and of course I found the skull, and I'm like, well, I'm going to pull that off and kind of put it up on the tree, and then I kind of just explored the area a little bit more. And funny enough, the location where that carcass was a great location to build a shelter. So I ended up building my shelter right near that, which was both a blessing and a curse because um, I predicted that the muskox was in that area because that was a travel corridor, which I was right about. But the wolverine know that too, and so the wolverine came back, and they ended up, getting into my food and being
Tormented you.
tormented me. So yeah, blessing and a curse.
So what was it about that area that made it a good channel? Like a good channel for wildlife?
So there is, I was on well, they dropped me off on a peninsula,
Hmm.
and that peninsula was kind of like, obviously like the shape of sort of like a teardrop, which meant that the top part of it, which joins to the mainland, was actually pretty narrow. I could walk across the top part of that peninsula in 5 minutes, less, probably even 3 minutes. So, but then it widened out. You think about the bottom, like the teardrop getting wider. The bottom part of that peninsula was quite a bit wider. So the thing that I knew was that the peninsula was pretty big, and there was a lot of good vegetation on that peninsula for feeding. And I did notice about a bunch of tracks. So some older moose tracks. So I figured that they more than likely would come on this peninsula to feed because a lot of that area, funny enough, had burnt.
Ah,
So
okay.
so there was these green patches, which was very much sort of coastal by the lake, but a lot of the inland was burnt. And so I knew that a lot of these big ungulates are probably coming over here to feed, and I knew that the only way in and off that peninsula would be through this access point. So I wanted to be close to it so that if they did, I would be able to hear them or hopefully see them.
Yes. That
Yeah.
makes complete sense. Ah, okay. And so I did like when I was doing a bit of research before this podcast, I listened to a couple of your other interviews, and I think it was on the Son of a Blitch podcast. Shout out to
George.
to George. Shout out to George. Yeah, I think that you said that you did actually. I mean, you chose wisely. You chose a great hunting corridor, and and then you just mentioned it now as well that you came across a moose. I'd love to hear so you actually hunted a moose and you took a shot on it.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear that whole story. I'm so intrigued about what happened because it just never made it to television, and that's
No,
that
I'm
must be-
grateful.
Okay.
I'm grateful for that. It was day 5, and I was trimming limbs off of a tree before I was about to chop down the tree, and just the sound of me with an axe trimming leaves must have sounded like raking,
Yes,
which
like
moose
thrashing.
which moose will often do during the rut, to display, and they'll rake trees. And so raking and calling are two great ways. Well, raking is calling, but there's the moose specific moose vocalization, and raking are two great ways to try and lure a moose into your area. I mean, it was only day 5. I wasn't planning to go after big game that early.
Yes.
But I was trimming the trees and I heard a stick crack, and I looked over and there was a giant bull moose. He was about 40 yards away, guessing, and he was just standing there sort of staring in my direction, but there was a lot of trees that were blocking his view from me. So he was trying to figure out if I was a bull moose. And I think that I mean, I can only reference my experience with elk, kind of like wary. Is this a bigger bull? Like, what's his deal? Is he displaying for a cow? Does he have a cow? Does he buys it? Like, I think he's trying to put the puzzle pieces together.
Yes.
And when I heard the stick crack, I came around, I saw this giant. I immediately reacted. I hunkered down. My shelter wasn't too far. I kind of crawled to the shelter, got my bow, crawled back, and I took a shot, and what I perceived to be a perfect heart shot. Like, it was tucked in the pocket just behind the front leg. He immediately turned and ran, and I usually would not do anything. Just let the animal run. I don't want him to feel like he's being pursued. I want him to try and believe, like with elk, that he was maybe, skewered by another bull. Like, it takes them a minute to try and figure out what's going on, but they don't necessarily, he's not correlating this with a predator.
Okay.
So I want him to just probably run, not too far, and then maybe bed down, and hopefully lungs fill up with blood and he dies, or
Just
if it's
expire.
a hard shot, he just falls over within 100 yards. I mean, that's what I was hoping for. But we are limited to a certain amount of land, and there are these invisible beacons, if you want. They've put like satellite waypoints. If you cross them, you're out of your land, your area, your zone,
Okay.
and they know that, and they will immediately call you and tell you to go back to your area. Very strict rules on staying in your area. They don't want you coming into contact with any other participants, and sometimes the two different zones are bordering each other. They're big zones. They're big zones, right? But like, you're not going to hear them or anything. You're not going to smell campfire smoke or anything like that. But they are very strict about that. I knew that. And this is very abnormal when you're hunting big game to be restricted in that way. So I decided to run after the animal very lightly. I took my shoes off and ran in my wool socks, and it's very boggy. So you can actually run pretty light there, to just keep an eye on the direction. It was very important for me to know which direction this animal was headed so that I could track it down. I had only my bow. I had the GoPro, and I just took the bow and the GoPro, and I ran, took off my shoes and I ran. And I caught up to him about 200 yards away. And I was
sorry,
behind-
I got to ask. So you shot,
Yeah.
you took the shot, and you were about 40 yards away.
When I shot him, I was about 30.
Okay. And then he ran, but instead of waiting, you just followed him. You just because you needed to understand more information.
I knew I had the wind in my favor.
Okay,
So
good.
provided he didn't see me, I knew I'd be fine, and I was
Okay.
pretty comfortable that I could stay unseen. So I jogged after, and the tracks of a moose are like this big,
Massive.
in the bog, not hard to find. But the problem is that once he gets off the peninsula and he starts making his way up on higher terrain, the ground is not soft anymore.
Yes.
So tracking would be difficult. So I caught up to him about 200 yards, and I could see him about 60 yards away from me, and he was just standing. And I can now at this point see his front left leg is completely red, all bleeding down, and it's bright red blood. Like nice,
like
good-looking
lung
blood, like lung blood.
Okay.
And I at that point I'm like, okay, it obviously wasn't a hard shot because he would be done by now.
Yes.
So I watched him for a little while. I could have sworn I saw him sort of gather his balance a bit. like he was just about to go off balance. And then he bedded down. And I'm like, it's in the bag.
Dreams.
I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. This is unbelievable. And then it hit me when I started feeling that I got no camera. I got no camera on this.
Yes.
And the one thing that they ask you for is like, we're going to give you your dream. We're going to pay you to do this experience. You could potentially win $1 million. Film everything. If you don't film it, it doesn't happen. So I'm sitting there feeling very guilty about not having the camera. I'm watching this moose bed down and I'm thinking, what do? I don't really want to leave this animal right now. I'd rather just sit here. I know my wind is going to be good. And I just want to know that if he gets up, which direction I want to stay with him until he's dead.
Yes, of course.
And the guilt got the better of me. So I snuck out, sprinted back, got the camera, got a knife to, ready for a lot of work up ahead.
Yeah.
Turned around, ran back, and then started to sneak back into the spot. I looked over and he's gone.
Oh, no.
So, and I'll mention one more thing. Before I went back, I quickly went over to look at if I could find my arrow.
Yes. Okay.
So I found my arrow, and so I have a 33-inch arrow. Half of it was broken off on a tree limb. So I knew that half of it was inside him. So that's at least 1 foot of penetration inside of him, which is great. And, at that point I was thinking, maybe this is not a double lung shot. It might just be a single lung shot. This animal could live quite a while on just a single lung shot, but I don't have any experience hunting moose. So I just didn't really know the extent to how long he could live, or if he maybe wouldn't die at all with just one collapsed lung. So anyways, I then went back and he wasn't there. I walked up to the spot very slowly where I last saw him, and I started looking for blood, and the smallest drops of blood and not only that, the ground there now, we're talking late fall. The crowberries, the lingonberries, these leaves are turning red. The ground looks like blood everywhere. It's spongy. It was the most grueling place to track blood. I spent 2 days trying to find that animal. And it was morning of day 2 when I called up the production.
Yes.
And I explained to them that I need to leave my boundaries because I think I know where he's headed. I need to leave my boundaries.
Yeah.
And they basically said, you can't. And I said, well, how about you have a conversation with the Departments of Natural Resources?
Yes.
About the obligations.
Ethical choice.
Ethical. So they said, hold on. And they I don't even know if I should be talking about it, but they sent out a guy with a drone with an infrared camera to try and find the heat signature of the animal. So they flew the drone around a bit.
Yes.
In my opinion, not a great attempt, but also it was very late on the end of the day on day 2.
Yes.
So that animal was probably dead.
It's cold. Yeah.
Cold.
It's the same
heat
color
signature.
as everything else.
So I never got the animal because I couldn't leave my area. I couldn't pursue, and I'm almost certain I know which direction it went. Across, there was a creek there was like this sort of mountain creek that flowed down into the main lake, and that was one of my boundaries. And I am very positive that he crossed that creek and he headed over that creek west, and I couldn't track him. So that was absolutely brutal. I mean, that was, to me, it was, like a game winning animal. Like that would have been, I would have fed myself easily for 100 days and still had half the amount of meat left over.
Yeah.
This animal was, when I say big, his shoulders were probably my head height, and then you think about his rack and everything, that was probably another 3 feet high. This animal was incredible.
Like talking,
we're talking 1,000-pound animal.
Plus,
easy 1,000 pounds. Yeah, like incredible.
Oh, that's unbelievable. What was your I mean, it's probably an obvious question, but what was your like emotional state through this whole trajectory?
My emotional state was such disappointment that I actually considered tapping out, because in my mind I thought that this footage would be used and that I was going to be the guy that wounded a moose on international television,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'd be hated. And like, I was like, really? Is this how my story is meant to be?
Mm.
And it really put me in a negative funk, which I managed to work my way out of. But it was not easy. That was the hardest emotional, mental experience of my 40 days, hands down.
I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, yeah, I've lost. Luckily, I mean, I've not been bow hunting long, but I have lost one animal before, and I had to track another animal for 2 or 3 hours, and even without the extra, all of the extra pressure and expectation and reality of food and life and death and all of that kind of stuff going on, and then obviously, of course, like a
Yeah,
$1 million prize for that season for you as well, potentially, if that's right. I think.
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, even without that stuff, it's already a crazy emotional situation because you don't want to have shot something and harm it and not retrieve it, right? Like maybe it's wounded, all that. There's a lot of complex stuff going on. So,
Any bow hunter, I mean, will tell you. I mean, for me personally, the worst part of bow hunting is after you've shot an animal,
oh yeah,
because there's such I can't compare anxiety like that to much else. The anxiety until you walk up on that dead animal is so intense. It's just it captivates and it just encompasses your entire being until you see the animal dead. And when that animal's not there and you can't find it, it is like someone sticks a knife in your stomach and just twists it. It's the most awful feeling, but that's the roller coaster ride of bow hunting. It just is what it is.
yeah, and I'm sure it's the emotions that humans have been feeling for many thousands of years.
There's nothing more human.
So that's the first story with Joel van der Loon. We now have another one with Kielyn Marrone. But first, I figured it would be a good moment to invite you to follow or subscribe to this podcast. If you aren't doing that already, now's a good time. That way you will be up to date with all the new podcasts coming through the pipeline. As I mentioned in the setup before, James Eastman is going to be jumping in, talking about his great white shark encounter that he was very lucky to come out with some stories and some injuries, but that's all. Our next story is with Kielyn Marrone. Here she is now. There seems to be a fire in you that you are super driven to achieve a high level in whatever you do. And I'm wondering, where do you think that came from? Was it from maybe the way you were brought up, or did it come from the gymnast, like the strong gymnast influence that you had from a very young age? What do you think?
Uh, Lots of things. Certainly through sport, you learn that determination, that grit, that tenacity. Um, but something that I learned about myself later, actually through alone, um, is that my drive to please others is probably the one of the most defining characteristics of my childhood.
Ah,
And my dad also wanted to be an NHL hockey star. And he got high. He was in the OHL. And, from the story that I heard, like the drafting team was there looking at him, and he got Gordon Bombay slashed in the knee and taken out.
oh no.
And he's got his giant scar on his knee. And that was it. Like hockey over. And I think when he was raising his kids, my brother was a hockey athlete. and he was so hard on my brother, just like drilling him. Like we made an ice rink in the backyard, like just boom, 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 like just tough dad. Um, and he exhibited a lot of anger, rage, aggression, not physically, but emotionally. And I think that put this like fear in me of like, don't screw up. Don't don't do anything to ruffle feathers and be a freaking good gymnast. And like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was because that was how he showed love, was talking about visualization and being standing on the podium, and like those were the things that he valued. And so if I could be that person, then I would get that love. And he didn't express love um like I do. And um so my need to uh please, and I was the same with my teachers, my coaches. It was like, behave, be proper, and you will have that positive reinforcement. And like that was like a huge driving force for me. It was like, and it got to the point in my like post alone sort of therapy that I was like, did I even want to go to the Olympics? Did I even like gymnastics? Did I even want, you know what I mean? Like it was like,
Yeah.
or was I chasing that positive reinforcement from the people who wanted me to go, or who, and that's probably like a closed loop system where like they think I like gymnastics, so they're encouraging me, and I think, you know what I mean? Like um the
Yeah.
therapy behind that is probably, more money than I can afford. But that, I think, drove me to be better. Because I was chasing that love, that positive reinforcement. And so I'm grateful for that, because I am a determined person. I am a go-getter, and I don't think we would be living in a house we built, um, and everything that we've accomplished if it wasn't for that.
Yes. It's definitely a useful asset to have. Being able to get up and actually make shit happen.
But now I'm at this point now in my life where I'm like, whoa, like I'm trying to like slow the pony down, to be like, okay, like let's take a minute and reassess. And you don't have to always be go, 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 go. We feel settled. Like our house is not finished. You can see behind me, we don't have siding on the house, but we've got running water, we've got a sauna, we've got a wood-fired hot tub now. We have a 3-bay garage that we built with heated floors and a moon board installed, which is like a climbing wall. So we're feeling like pretty set up here.
Yes.
And it's time for me to just like take a minute, and that is a little bit of a scary feeling for me, slowing down,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if I'm not doing all of this, well, who am I then?
It's time to think as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Time to think a bit more deeply about things, I guess. Because when you're non-stop, it's easy to just be focusing on the next task. And this is
Yeah.
from my personal experience.
Yeah.
But I'm curious then, you said that these big questions, which sound quite like the floor is getting taken out from underneath you. Did you actually want to be a gymnast? Did you even want to go to the Olympics? Maybe you can tell a little bit about the story of how you got into Alone. Did you ask yourself the question, did I even want to go to Alone? Was that even, or was that just for approval of others?
For sure. Yeah. Hmm. But yeah, I can answer that question about, did I even want to go on Alone? because yeah, it's a question like I don't know what happened. Like, um, originally it was Dave that was wanting to go. He was the one that he applied after season 4. Our friends, Jim and Ted Baird won. And
Legends.
yeah, and so we were watching them. And as soon as we found out that they were on the show, I was just like, well, they're gonna win for sure. And for not knowing any of the other participants either, they had a similar background to us with like expeditions. And I feel like when you do an expedition in the wilderness, there's this tenacity, adaptability, ingenuity, and mindset that you just have to accomplish your goal, out there. And um, so, anyways, we watched them, and after that, I was not like, I would love to do that. Because we were living in a tent at that time. Like, we were already doing it. We were like living it, but with, comfort in that we could go to the grocery store when we needed to. Um,
Okay.
but we're like, still, we got to cut all our own wood. We're dealing with frozen, dish sinks and mice, and like, we're in the elements. We were already doing it. So at that point, I was just like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, yeah, I'm not going to apply. But I didn't know this, but Dave applied for season 5. But season 5 was a, what do you
The
call it?
comeback.
Redemption season.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so that was off. And then he didn't get a call for season 6. But then for season 7, they called him and they wanted him to send in a video and apply. And then through their research of him, discovered that I was also into the outdoors and we lived off grid and that sort of thing. And so they had asked me if I would apply. And I was like, oh, I don't know, like, not really my thing. But
How did that make Dave feel?
well, at first he was just like, yeah, apply if you want to. And then I realized that if you get into the top 20, you get flown to New York for a week, and all expenses paid. I was like, well, we could use a vacation. This would be great. Uh, it's like we had already been like just working like dogs. At
But
this point, we had built our house.
wow, for how
But it
many
was
years were you like working? So this is when you're at Golden Pond. How many years had you been like head down, homesteading hard, trying to get things set up? But
7 years. Like,
7 years.
yeah, and and our business was 9 years old at that point. So like, we we started with nothing, like nothing. And the property didn't have a single trail on it. So like, we were like, we had $3,000 to start our dream, and we didn't have a boat, we didn't have a tent, we didn't have tools, we didn't have a chainsaw, we didn't have a battery operated drill, we didn't have nothing. I think we had a shovel and a hammer and like, a couple tarps. Like, and so every dollar that we earned went into the property and the business. So not only were we building an infant business, we were building an infant homestead. And so like, it was really touch and go for a while, racking up the bad debt, like credit card debt, and like, not knowing how we were going to make payments, and while still trying to keep growing the business and trying to continue making our lives comfortable. Um, we so and we were seeing the light. Like, it was starting to, bank account was starting to go into the positive, and like, but I was exhausted. Like, I didn't realize how tired I was until we got to New York, and the executive producers asked me why I wanted to do it. And I just burst into tears and I just said, I'm tired. I need a break. And they laughed, like just like you did, because it's like, I'm pretty sure you're in the wrong place for a break. But for me, it was just like, I just need to be away from the business, away from the homestead, the list, the to-do list. I just needed to change. And, that seemed like a good idea to like try and challenge myself. I love a good challenge. Um, something to focus on that wasn't the business, but that had potential for huge life gains as far as finances go, that will just finally allow us to have that little bit of, a lot of it, of breathing room, so that we could start reclaiming our time a little bit. And that was what was really important to me was like, if I'm going to do this, I am going to do my damnedest to like finish the job, get to 100 days and, make it worth our time. Because for me, I saw it as a job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so like the big kicker for me was that Dave actually wanted to do this. And like the producers weren't going to choose both of us because we were a couple. That would be weird. But also, it's just the two of us running the business. We can't both leave. So it was in my head and his head and probably the producer's head, it was an either or none. And so by me getting chosen, I felt like I took his spot. He had to stay home, run the business, and like that was not great. Like that was not he was tired too. He
Yes.
wanted a break too. And so for me to go off and have this incredible adventure while he is stuck back in the, ever
Yeah.
changing but mundane like job where we had to work day in and day out, was a
So I
challenge.
guess his workload has increased as well. Like his work's kind of gone up a huge
A
amount.
100%. And so that was like a huge motivating factor for me of like, don't screw this up. Like you're there to do a job and to represent both myself, Dave, the company, and you're not leaving because you want to. And that's why um I didn't leave until I was physically in danger. Yeah.
It's such a complex a situation emotionally as well, I'm guessing, because you must have felt, I'm guessing there must have been some guilt involved in some capacity. I mean, I'm not putting feelings for you. You can speak for yourself, but it's got to be a complex thing. And also on Dave's side, it's his dream, but also being excited for you and knowing that you are such a powerhouse in this area. So it's yeah. How was that time beforehand? Was there like tension between you, or was it okay?
Um, well, yeah. So when we got the call, uh, that it would be me and not Dave, like that was so awkward because it was like I'm supposed to be celebrating, but we're also mourning,
Yeah,
Dave's rejection. And yeah, he just was honest with me. He's like, congratulations, I'm gonna need a couple days.
yeah,
And yeah, so like for 2.5 days, like we just gave each other space. Um, and that was tough because it was like, I don't know, like I need you to help me get ready for this, but also I know that this sucks for you.
yeah.
Um, And so what ended up happening was quite amazing for him, um, because then like 2 days after that, he got a call from a company that specializes in high Arctic adventures, and they had a last minute position opening and they wanted him to take it. And it was a 6-week contract north of Baffin Island, and it started like in in a week or something. And so he left. He went to the art. I said, "Yes, you're going. Like,
Yeah.
don't even question it. This is your consolation prize."
Yeah, it's perfect timing.
And yeah, it was a good distraction. Like he was able to do something he's always wanted to do. You know, he's seeing polar bears and all kinds of different whales. And but for me, I was like, you know what? It's probably best, because it would have been too hard for him to like see me getting all my gear ready. And um like I made almost all of my clothing, and at the same time I'm trying to put on weight. And I remember, so he got back from the Arctic a week before I was leaving.
Wow.
Uh, so my alone, and that's the longest we had ever been apart, that Arctic contract. So like before that, we were, you know, business partners, lovers, partners, best friends. Like we did everything together. And then he takes off for 6 weeks while then I'm trying to like get ready for this adventure. Then a week we had, uh, and then said goodbye for, up to Christmas time. So yeah, it was intense build up for sure. But yes, there was a lot of guilt um, throughout the whole experience, which you don't get to see on camera, which is like when I'm crying on national television, it's like it's complicated. Like it's not just because I missed that moose. It's because I missed that moose and now I'm failing because maybe Dave would have gotten that moose. Or maybe like I'm failing and I'm not going to make it to 100 days and I've wasted the opportunity because Dave could have been out here. And so it was all this guilt playing up and self-inflicted, of course, but also, it was like,
Hmm.
it was a true disappointment for him. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's also, I mean, as you explained before, it's a product of your own psychology as well, right? You are wired to please others, and if yeah, that's I can imagine why that would be so fueled, like so emotionally charged. Definitely. Yeah, wow, that must have been intense. So I guess I'd love to talk a little bit about your prep that you did. I mean, I didn't realize that you were doing that, like most of your prep on your own, which in a funny way, I guess is quite good emotional prep beforehand because, you're getting a practice run at this solo existence.
yeah.
You said you made your own clothing and some equipment and things. Do you mind sharing some of that stuff? And did you find it like worked really well in the environment?
For sure. Yeah, I was, well, the biggest thing that I made that was imperative was my moccasins for the cold weather. I knew it was going to be a cold, dry environment. And so we use moccasins, which are just, leather boots basically, but they're designed to stay breathable. And
Ah,
you can make them as wide as you need to pack as much insulation as you can in them. So as you're walking throughout the day, your feet is generating moisture, and that moisture can breathe through all of your layers except for that outer layer. It's going to stop and then freeze. And then you're going to have a layer of ice surrounding your feet for the rest of the day. And so you're literally walking around with ice blocks on your feet. Whereas with the moccasins, all of the layers are breathable. So that moisture comes through the hide and then gets wicked away by the cold snow. So your feet stay warm, comfortable, and dry all day.
interesting.
Um, and so that's what we use on our winter expeditions. But I also knew I needed to I knew I was going to be limited on calories, and calories equals warmth. So I needed to try to overcompensate for that. And so I made them like super, super thick, and like they were almost as wide as they were long. Um, and I like double stitched every pucker and like made sure that, they were bomb proof, and made my boot liners with felted wool, and my mittens were extra thick, and my hat had fur sewn into it, and then I made a fur hat as well for sleeping, with like a flap that came down to keep my nose warm at night, and like these big ear flaps that I could tie around my head as like a scarf. And um you make the classic stuff like an arm guard for the archery, and you're modifying your gear as much as you can so that you're anticipating your needs. And that was a huge part of what I believed to be my advantage in this climate, was that like I have, hundreds and hundreds of days in this environment in the cold. So I knew the different clothing challenges that you could encounter and how to overcome those. And so that was a big part of my, mm, home field advantage, even though it was in a totally different territory. The climate and the environment, the flora and the fauna were all plants and environments that I was comfortable in. And so, yeah, that's was a big part of sort of that strategy.
I can imagine that's also going to be an amazing psychological benefit, because if you've literally handpicked, gone through every single, like almost every item of clothing, every stitch, is going to hold up, like because you've put the work in yourself. That's got to give you like an underlying sense of confidence in your gear, which more so than I guess anyone who would normally just be buying stuff. You don't know for sure if something's going to withhold the challenges.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it made me feel really, really confident. And when it started to get cold, and I was looking like, we have a week with the other participants before we got inserted into the field. And I was looking at some of their clothing, and I was like, oh man, like that's not gonna cut it.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so like we spent a couple days in Yellowknife before we went into the field. And I was like trying to coach people, and like we were going to the outdoor store that they had there, and I was trying to like pick out things that would be more useful for some people, and trying to give people strategies. Like, for me, like all summer I was shooting my bow with my insulated gloves on, because I
Yes.
was like, you're not gonna be able to just walk around with bare hands.
Yeah.
And so when we had the 10 days of orientation, I told everyone, put your gloves on, like start shooting with your gloves on. And they were thankful for that. And yeah, it was a lot of my prep was philosophy, actually. Like I read a lot of philosophy and books about um, stoicism and overcoming obstacles, and a lot of like positive self affirmations, and that became really helpful for me in the field.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's so aware as well, because I never claimed to be able to do what you do as well as you do it. But I do think psychologically that's a big thing, right? Like if your brain isn't in gear and you're not able to handle the emotions that you're feeling, then that's going to be a big issue, because whatever's going on, your perspective can have a huge effect on whether something is good or bad even.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's Kielyn's story done and dusted. 5-star reviews, I love collecting them, but not only because they're good for my ego, they're also good for the algorithm gods. They make sure that everybody who likes the kind of content that you and I do will have a better chance of seeing this podcast. So if you can give a 5-star review, if you really want to fluff my ego, then write something nice about it. That'll get out into the world and help push this podcast onwards and upwards. The next episode that we are going to listen to now, well, it's not an episode, it's a story. It's a segment of a previous episode, is a mind-boggling life and death encounter with something called a bushbuck, which is a very aggressive little South African antelope. Well, African antelope, I should probably say in a broader sense. But this conversation was with Aubrey Tidbury, and here he is now. I mean, obviously, you progressed rifle hunting, bow hunting, spear hunting, but you have actually wrestled and fought and killed an animal with less tools than a spear with a certain bushbuck, right?
Yeah, bushbuck ram with a jersey.
With a like a t-shirt, hey?
It was a jersey. No, it was.
So what's a jersey? Like
a jumper, I think you call them.
Like a jumper.
It's like when you get cold, you put is a jump called a jumper.
Yeah, we call it a jumper in England and a sweater in America.
Okay, so we call it a jersey. Yeah.
So you've actually and to set this up, a bushbuck is, I mean, and this isn't from you. I've heard this from other people say, like, just watch out. A bushbuck is a dangerous animal. Like it. You know, it's got incredibly sharp horns and they're very aggressive.
Yeah, they can be. It's an animal that will mind its own business, but wounded pound for pound, I think. So I have a notch or two more respect for a wounded ram than a wounded bush pig. Not that I don't respect a wounded bush pig. I'm just saying, apex-wise, I think wounded bushbuck ram is probably the most aggressive. And if you see them fighting, two bushbuck rams fighting, you'll just look at it in absolute awe and think, jeepers, the speed of it. I've seen bushbuck rams bayed by dogs, and the hairs up, they buckled like a wound up elastic band, horns down, and you cannot believe how fast that thing can cover distance. I mean, it's accounted for probably the most dogs killed in South Africa. Or wherever bushbuck occur, you get different species up north as well. But wounded bushbuck ram is probably the most formidable. I'd say even more than a buffalo.
Wow, really?
I've had limited experience with buffalo hunting, only 5. Like going to help out guys with wounded buff and
using
stuff,
your dogs to
with
find
the puppies, yes. But so I haven't been in a really hectic situation with that, but bushbuck ram wise, it is for an animal that size, what he can do to you in the time that he can do it, it is like I can't even start trying to explain it to you.
Yeah, you can just like duck and turn, and with the sharp horns have your guts out everywhere.
Man, they are next level. They're next level, and they got sharp horns. But
so tell me the story then. Like,
okay, so I'll let you read that story. It's in our family hunting book.
Okay.
But yeah, so to tell you what happened, we were hunting in the Southwell area.
Okay.
Hunting bushbuck many years ago. My cousin's friend's family had a farm there, and we were invited to go and hunt. So we would go on our family hunt once a year, and my cousins documented that in the book. And it's been going on since early days. My dad's been organizing this with my uncles, and we go, and there's something nice traditionally passed down to my boys have been coming now the last couple of years, and it's an incredible thing. It's a really special thing to do. So in any case, we were now hunting at Wayne's place, and we'd now gone from our camp base on his farm to his in-laws or family of his in Southwell, which is probably maybe a half an hour, 45-minute drive.
Okay.
And we're now hunting. So we were quite excited to be hunting because Southwell is now a real bushbuck, proper, like hunting in bushbuck heaven. There's big rams there.
It's thick with bushbuck.
And there's lots of bushbuck there.
Okay.
Yes, so we were super excited. And this particular morning, I got sent to a position with like a bala. A bala is a big open area normally on the top of a hill.
Okay. And
there was this little clump of trees there, and one prominent tree in this bala. And I was walking up towards this bala, and I noticed a bushbuck ewe or two grazing, and next thing I see there's a ram, but I wasn't actually sure. It was a very light coloured ram. It looked through the binocs and I saw, yes, this is a proper flipping, like almost a 15-inch bushbuck ram, yeah. So got excited, and I had my little Jackie with me, so I told her to sit, and I took my belt off, and I put my binocs down, and I walked a bit closer, and my knife was on my belt. Stupid thing to do, but in any case, I didn't need it at the time. I left it there, and I walked up, and I saw this ram, and I don't know if I tried to get too close or what, but they might have scented me, and they moved off this pile, and they were gone. So we then got picked up by the vehicle, and we all joined up for lunch, and the guys were saying, well, okay, who's going where this afternoon, as the normal discussion happens, or who wants to go where type of thing. So normally the older toppies get to choose first, but when it was my turn, I said, look, I'd love to go back to where I was this morning, because twofold, I've seen a huge bushbuck ram there. I'd love to get him.
Yeah.
And also I called my dog, but I forgot my flippin' belt, and my knife was on my belt, and my binocs were at the gate where I'd left them when I walked up to the top of this hill. So I need to go back and fetch that. So in any case, granted, they gave me the privilege of going back to that spot, and unknown to me, Wayne and his son were up on top of another krantz, but they could see this bala from a distance. So with this, so I went to go and sit in this tree, so I could have a vantage point over this whole area.
That same tree where you had been.
The tree that I'd seen on top of this bala. I hadn't really paid much attention to it earlier, but
yeah,
trying to get in the right position, wind's coming from that side, I need to be this side. Okay, here's a tree, and I love climbing trees, so I climbed up this tree with my 308, but I didn't want to go across this bala to go fetch my gun belt in case I'd now buggered up the rest of the hunt for this bushbuck had smelt me or whatever, and stuff up my chances of getting this ram. So I thought, I've got 4 bullets here. I'll spend the afternoon in the tree, and before the truck fetches me, I'll go or when the truck gets here, we'll ask them to go past and go pick up my gun belt and my knife and my binocs. In any case, I'm up this tree, and not long out comes a ewe, and lo and behold, out comes this bushbuck ram. And these rams, when they get old, they kind of lose that color. Some are darker than others, but when they get really old, they get like a woolly color to them, and like lighter. But this one was particularly like almost like a reddish ram. In any case, so the wind had picked up a bit, and this tree was swaying a little bit, and in any case, I steadied myself, and I went for what I thought was a good shot, and I flipped pulled the shot, and I hit this ram in the back leg, just above the knee here. Broke his back leg.
Yeah.
And he took off across this bala, across me like this. So when the shot went off, Wayne and his son started paying attention to what was going on, and they saw this, and they saw me literally almost fall out this tree, because I'd shot the rest of my bullets out at this ram crossing this bala, but I'd missed him.
Okay, so you shot once, and then were like, oh,
I hit him.
Shit.
I knew I'd hit him because of the reaction, and his back leg was flapping. But it's amazing how they can cover ground on 3 legs.
Yes.
So he took off across this bala, and I literally almost dropped myself out of the tree, because I wanted to see where he's going now, because I've got no more bullets. Needed to see where this, and I don't know where. I don't know what I'd done with my dog, but she was with me earlier, but I think I'd left on the truck or whatever, because for whatever reason. And so I had nothing with me. Left the gun against the tree, and I took off across this gap, and these oaks are watching this from a distance and thinking, what the hell is this oak doing chasing this bushbuck ram across this gap? And it had just disappeared from sight, and I got to the bush line. I'm thinking, where the hell is this thing? And I looked down, and here was this ram lying down in the long grass here on the bush line. So we looked at each other for a while, and for a bit, and I thought, well, there's no use in just letting this stretch out. I need to try and grab. I'm going to lose. This is a 15-inch bushbuck ram.
It's a nice bushbuck.
I'm not going to let this bushbuck get away.
So how far away is it at that point?
It's 2 meters, 3 meters from me.
Wow. Okay, so like 6 feet.
Yeah, but it's sitting down. It's not standing, fortunately. So in any case, I've grabbed this ram by the flippin' pins, and we start wrestling with each other, and he tries to get up, and we're rolling, and we're wrestling, and Wayne's watching us from across the way. What the hell is this oak doing with this flippin' bushbuck? So I try and suffocate it. For some reason, I thought of how the lions kill buffalo. They've put their mouth over the buff's nose. You know, I've seen that. Lionesses, That's how they suffocate. The only thing I could do was kill this thing by suffocation.
It's like in those moments with like, I guess it's like you're fighting for your, like both fighting.
Yeah.
It's like memories come from somewhere, right?
And in any case, I grabbed this ram and I tried to stop him from breathing, and I was really battling to, and eventually I could see, okay, I'm winning this fight. Yeah, well, I thought I was winning this fight, and eventually he'd start kicking, and he'd go on his side, and he's kicking, and you got to watch those hooves are coming past you, and you got to try and keep him. I tried to put his horns in the ground, like we've been told,
to like make them safe.
At least you got the business end of it like secure, to try and anchor him to the ground, and I couldn't turn him over. He was too strong, and. In any case, I've got him, and I can see he's losing strength here, and I'm flipping losing strength here. I'm flipping exhausted here now. And I thought, okay, it's over, and I let go. And he sucked a flipping big breath of air there, and it was back to how he was. And I'm thinking, well, if I let go here, I am tickets. They'll pick me up here next to this flipping ram if he's still here when they get here. And there's just, it's you just know you can't. It's just a thing. If I let go, I'm game over here. The thing will flip and put his horns through my guts, and I'll be finished. So you're holding on for dear life, and you're thinking, and I thought, well, fuck. My only other option is to try and strangle this thing with my jersey. Don't know how that idea came to my fucking mind, but it did. And I'm holding this ram, and now I'm thinking, well, to get this jersey off, I need to let go one hand. So I'm like wriggling here, and I don't know what these guys were thinking watching this, but I managed to get this jersey off my head, letting go one hand at a time, get it off, and now I've got the jersey around my arms here like this, still on my arms, and I'm flipping to try and now I've got to get this jersey over this ram's flipping head. So now I'm like dressing. This like thing, he's like saying, he's like, oh, Aubrey's putting his jersey on this Bushbuck ram. But now this thing's on his feet, I'm standing, this ram's standing, and we like pushing each other, and I'm losing strength here quick. I know I need to make a flipping plan here. So I managed to get the jersey off me, over his flipping horn, one horn at a time, and over his head, and I managed to just turn it until it wouldn't turn anymore, and I managed to...
It's like tourniquet
him like that. And it was such a relief when he eventually went down, because it was going to be me. So luckily I had the jersey, and luckily the idea worked, because if that plan didn't work, I was kind of out of options.
Yeah, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
That's a wild story, man.
Yeah, so it was just the angels were there too.
Yeah, I don't think you're not making a plan to switch from spear hunting to jersey hunting.
No, but I don't think that's an option. That one, I haven't hunted enough for the spear quite yet to get to that point. I don't think.
Right, that is episode 101 in the bag. Again, a huge thank you to everyone who keeps listening all these years. I guess all these years. It's about 3 years. Feels like a long time to me. A huge thank you to all the sponsors. Once again, everyone who put in for this prize to celebrate episode 100. You really made it special. And congratulations to the winners as well. The people who put in and made the effort, got those extra entries. It must have paid off. So you'll be receiving some swag in the mail soon. I said it before, I'll say it again. There are a bunch of good episodes coming in, so stay tuned, and we'll be back soon.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.